We are live.
Thank you. The meeting of the Committee of the Whole Operations is now called to order. I'd ask that you rise as you're able for the reading of the invocation, please. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. We acknowledge the rich history of this land, which includes the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples. Today, there are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who live or work in the city. The intent of this acknowledgement is to recognize our responsibilities to use and take care of these lands responsibly and respectfully, while remembering generations past and considering the generations yet to come. We respect and seek to continue and promote the long-standing relationship with the area's First Nations, the Six Nations of the Grand River, First Nations, and the Mississauga of the New Credit First Nations, and the Indigenous people who reside within our city of Brantford. Let us also not forget those who served our community and who are no longer with us, so that we can continue to do the work we must in their memory. Amen. Okay. And clerk, the roll call is taken.
Yes.
And we have everybody here, and we have one person, Councilor Hunt is at home on virtually. Members of the committee, are there any declarations of interest, conflict of interest at all? Seeing none. Separated items. At this time, I'll ask the members of the committee what items they would like to separate. To tell you that they're pretty much all separated. 6.11 is separated, 6.12 is already separated, 6.13 is separated, 6.15 and 7.1 is already separated. Or any additional separation of items? Councilor Caputo.
6.1.8.
Yep, okay, I got you. Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, we'll move along. Oh, no, he was just telling me. Councilor Sullivan.
6.1.9.
You got that in another wire. Thank you. All right. Councilor, can you please move a motion to approve all items for consideration, consent not separated for discussion?
I certainly will. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Samwell, that all items for consideration, consent 6.1 and 6.2 not separated for discussion purposes be approved.
Okay. Clerk, I'd ask you to read the titles.
Thank you. So all the items that will be subject to the vote are 6.1.4 background regarding public health mergers in Ontario, 6.1.6 fire route of private property 585 Colburn Street, 6.1.7 Parkside Drive traffic safety review, and 6.2.1 the minute.
Thank you. We have two presentations and four delegations on. Oh, sorry, call the vote. Yes, on the one of those items. Thank you.
Thank you. And the separation of items carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Sicoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Left, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter, Hunt, Samwell, Van Tilburg, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you. There are two presentations and four delegations on the agenda this evening. Prior to hearing of the delegations, I'd like to remind those in the meeting today of the following rules of decorum as set forth in the city's procedural bylaw. No person shall display any sign, banner, or placard in the meeting room other than materials that, in the opinion of the chair, are legitimate audiovisual aids necessary in the connection with any presentation to be made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gesture that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only in the subject in the debate and shall not speak to any other subject. No person shall applaud participants in debate or engage in conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings. Okay, having said that, first delegation, I have 5.1, speaking of 5.11, is Finley Gronlund, Liam McDermott, Irish Jong, and Kelly Jong, Arbor Doucette, Brantford Youth Council. Someone speaking on behalf of them? Oh, all of these. Great. Come on up. And you have 10 minutes for your presentation. Whenever you're ready. Press the button and the red light will come on and you'll know your mic's working. Yep. There you go. Cool.
Hello, my name is Liam. I'm the Brantford Youth Council Vice President and the leader of the Social and Environmental Subcommittee. I live in Ward Street. I'm here to talk about the importance of Brantford Youth Council, also known as BYC. BYC is a way for youth in Brantford, aged 13 to 18, to come together and collaborate. BYC has existed for almost 20 years. We are youth who care a lot about municipal affairs and making change in our community. Through developing annual projects, we're learning valuable leadership and project management skills. It's really important to us to emphasize BYC exists, is active, and it's a great opportunity to learn from youth about what's impacting youth in our community. And celebrate the amazing things youth get up to in Brantford. Next slide, please.
Next slide, please. Hello, my name is Ellie. I'm a general member of Brantford Youth Council, and I live in Ward 3. I'm going to talk about some highlights from last year's cohort. BYC was very busy last year. We set up a more formal structure for how we meet, and we also created 3 subcommittees. The subcommittees are Social and Environmental Impact, Communication and Marketing, and Arts, Sports, and Events. Through our subcommittees last year, we planted youth community garden beds at the Earl Haig Gardens, created the Baddest Sports Project, which is a project to allow youth to try sports they feel like they lack skills in a fun, judgment-free space. This project also allows for fun opportunities for cross-cultural knowledge exchange. Our first event was Badass Skating. We participated in and supported community consultations around things like the inclusive community celebrations, the Empowering Youth Strategy, and the Child and Youth Bill of Rights. We participated in youth peer-to-peer conversation videos, and we hosted events like Power Hour with professionals. Next slide, please. Hello, my name is Iris. I'm the general member of the Brantford Youth Council, and I also live in Ward 3. Last year, BYC took on work to plan our own standalone programming for Brantford Youth Week 2024. We had a new flag made to be raised by the city. We hosted a seed planting picnic in Spring Street Bug Park. We hosted a board game potluck at Steve's Tea in partnership with Brantford Pride and The Bridge. We hosted a mental health James walk that included a guided forest walk, a breathwork workshop, and a visit from Therapy Dogs. We also hosted the 2024 Brantford Youth Excellence Award, where 18 local youths were awarded.
Next slide, please. Hello, my name is Arbor. I'm a general member of Brantford Youth Council, and I live in Ward 3. BYC is really important. BYC is helping to fill gaps in our community by creating youth-driven programming. BYC has been important since it started in the 2000s and remains important today. BYC is driving forward more opportunities for youth in the community, a demographic that historically feels underserved. BYC represents the youth in our community who are not old enough to vote yet, but we are an important, growing demographic who cares about making Brantford a great place to live for everyone. Diversity and inclusion are important to us because youth in Brantford are very diverse. We are here tonight to emphasize how important it is to us for youth to be heard.
Next slide, please. Hello, my name is Finley, and I'm the president of the Brantford Youth Council and also the leader of the Arts, Sports, and Events Subcommittee, and I also live in Ward 3. BYC has a lot of great future plans, and we hope to build more youth engagement around decision-making, as youth is the future of Brantford. Other municipalities have set up youth advisory council models where their youth councils engage in meaningful advisory opportunities with their elected officials. We are very interested in this opportunity that these models provide and hope to have BYC move towards this direction someday. We are so happy to have been included in the constellation process for the Empowering Youth Strategy, which is on the agenda tonight, and we believe that this strategy is important for our community and to help ensure youth's voices have a stronger effect in Brantford. Thank you.
At the end of your presentation, stay there because I have some questions from members of council. Councilor Sokoldi, you have the floor.
Thank you. Ward 3 certainly has some bright youth over there, First of all, thank you guys for coming here today. And I have a few questions. What type of relationship do you have with staff here at the City of Brantford? Do you reach out to them? Do you talk to them? Do they assist you with anything that you're working on?
We have a member of staff at Brantford who's kind of the head of it. Her name's Taylor. She gives guidance to us so we can make sure we are moving forward in the right directions, helping us develop these projects and teaching us a lot of these skills. At the current moment, BYC is now, I'm pretty sure, considered a part of the actual, I guess, municipal government of Brantford. It's like a branch of it.
Yep.
It's hard to explain. We're going through a transition process right now. It used to be very recreational. Now we're going to more formal, so we can actually develop better projects. That's a big part of why we have a terms of reference and everything. It's to move to more formal and to actually grow as a thing. Instead of going as small and recreational, we would like to move to more formal, committed group.
I've noticed, I saw that you guys had worked towards being a little bit more formalized in your structure. Have you given any thought to having like a government relations type committees, whereas you can reach out to your city councilors and consult with us regarding some things you're working on and seeing if there's any way we can support you?
I can take this one. So that's kind of why, one of the reasons why we're here tonight, because we would like that opportunity to have that, because other than Taylor, who is an amazing person who helps us run the BYC, we don't really have any other major connections that we can directly go to within the city of Brantford. So that's why we're kind of here to look for opportunities to consult on how like we could provide what like the youth are feeling in terms of ideas, and then also opportunities to receive input on ideas and things we're planning to do within Brantford.
I think that that would be an excellent idea. And I'm just a Google search away if you need me or any assistance. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Councilor Scully, and I have some more questions. Councilor Hunt, you have the floor.
Thank you, and thank you, all of you for coming. I just wanted to, when I listened to your presentation, I wanted to just to let you know about a new Optimist Club that has formed in Brantford. It just formed in June, and their sole focus is on what they can do to help youth and what youth needs in the community. So I'm happy to connect Taylor with the president of the Optimist Club, and I would certainly encourage you to reach out to that organization, because that their mandate is to support youth in our community and address needs of youth in the community.
Thank you, Councilor Hunt. Councilor McCurry, and then I have Councilor Celeste. Councilor McCurry.
Chair, thank you very much. Welcome, folks. It comes as no surprise to Ward 3 Councilor Greg Martin and myself that you're all constituents of ours, because folks in our ward generally are very aware and very politically astute. So if there's something Councilor Martin and I can help you with, shoot us an email and let us get you started on whatever course you need assistance with from our level to be a success. Thanks for hearing tonight.
Thank you, Councilor McCurry. Councilor Celeste.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say thank you for what you're doing. It's nice to see young folks stepping up and taking a leadership role on something, and obviously you folks are doing it and doing it well. So congratulations. And again, if there's anything, so unfortunately you don't live in Ward 2. It's probably the nicest ward in the city, but you don't, but you can certainly reach out to the representatives from Ward 2. Councilor Caputo and myself would be happy to assist in any way we can. So don't be shy. Our phone numbers and our contact is very easy to get a hold of. So if you feel there's something that we can be of assistance, please give us a call. Okay? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Celeste. Councilor Samuel.
Thank you. Of course, I want to thank you all for being here as well. I wanted to just mention that I had the opportunity to be at the Youth Awards and how what an excellent event that was. And just to reach out and say that I'm sure that everyone around this table would be happy to support all of you in whatever you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Samuel. And that's it for questions. I just want to say thank you, Finley, Liam, Iris, Ellie, Arbor did a great job. You represent the city well, and you represent the youth well in our community, and you can reach out to any counselors, any and or all. Okay, you can send an email to members of council, and that gets to all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would now like to ask members of the Grand River Council on Aging to come forward and speak to item 6.1.5, which is the Healthy Aging Strategy, 2025-2027.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You all know my name is Lucy Marco, but I'd like to introduce you to Mary Lou Mackey, who is the president of the Grand River Council on Aging Board of Directors. And we're here, as you know, the Grand River Council on Aging is a registered charitable nonprofit organization. And as a volunteer-driven organization, the council is dedicated to the promoting the development of an age-friendly community for all residents from 5 to 105. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that we just had a presentation from the youth of our community, and here we are representing the older adults. So now you're getting the whole community. As a result, when future changes to products or facilities and services are being considered, the Council on Aging listens to the ideas, the voices of lived experience are then consulted, and the experience of their lives comes forth and shares their experience related to the lessons they've learned as they've coped through the changes in their lives. That's the lived experience. And the result is the planning optimizes opportunities for health, participation, and security that will enhance the quality of life as people age. Now, this next slide, it will look familiar to you because it's in the 2025 age-friendly plan that's in your package. And it is something that we're very proud of, that the city of Brantford has accomplished in their progress in age-friendly planning for this community. You know, the GRCOA started back out with the 1909 recommendations for planning for the future of this community. That was in 2008. And in 2017, we went back to the older residents of this community, and those 99 recommendations grew to 628. But they're what the city of Brantford utilized and took part in and was wonderful to help them develop the first age-friendly plan that was part of being recognized as an age-friendly community by the World Health Organization. And that happened in 2017. And look what's happened since. At this point, I would like to have Mary Lou share with you what the Board of Directors, how the Board of Directors views the city and the Grand River Council on Aging as it works together.
We have the next slide, please. I think it's one back from there.
Back up.
Thank you. We know that age-friendly planning involves listening, consulting, and engaging. It's evident in the work that has been done so far, and it's evident in the plans that staff have outlined in your Healthy Aging Plan that listening, consulting, and engaging are critical actions in moving forward. This diagram shows the relationship that the Grand River Council on Aging has with the city in creating an age-friendly community. On the right side of the diagram are the direct responsibilities the city has for the 8 domains identified in the World Health Organization building an age-friendly community. And those are addressed in your Healthy Aging Plan. On the left side of the diagram are the Grand River Council on Aging actions designed to promote the voice of lived experience. So the Grand River Council educates and builds awareness in the broader community, including service providers, about the interests, strengths, and needs of seniors, using a variety of methods, including but not limited to our social media, in-person and online workshops, our age-friendly calendar, our seniors discount directory. As a registered charitable not-for-profit organization that relies entirely on volunteers, the Grand River Council on Aging must fundraise to support our initiatives. In addition, because it's a volunteer-driven organization, we regularly engage in volunteer recruitment activities. Through fundraising and volunteer recruitment, we reach out to additional members of the community and increase awareness of an age-friendly community. And we engage with the voices of lived experience. Together, as identified in the center of the Venn diagram, the Grand River Council on Aging can and does work with the city to consult, collaborate, and communicate. We are a valuable resource in bringing voices of lived experience to the table. We can share, develop, and support community information and can support outreach to populations particularly important in building an age-friendly community. We can work together with the city and other partners to access funding through grant applications. In short, we're in a unique position to help advance the directions as outlined in the Healthy Aging Plan. This has been demonstrated, for example, in the partnership summary published in June 2023, and which Lucy will highlight.
And so for all of you, just to remind you, the partnership summary was published in June of 2023 by the City of Brantford, and it recognized the value of the benefits of collaboration and consultation through its ongoing partnership with the Grand River Council on Aging. Examples included were the healthy aging plans that the city has worked towards, the most recent being the 2022-24, and the report that is finalized in your package tonight. Community safety and well-being, such as traffic, pedestrian safety, and seniors programming, downtown improvement task force, community parks and trails, climate change strategy, the COVID-19 recovery discussions and all the various things that had to go on in this community. 12 community strategies and master plans have been developed over this time with input from the older residents of this community. There were also 20 specific suggestions that were included in the 22-24 action plan. Staff are to be congratulated for their work, of the success and their measurements. The status report shows 11 of those were achieved, 3 are on track, and only 1 was deferred for some very good reasons. So Mary Lou will now share with you how the Board of Directors would like to continue the partnership with the City of Brantford.
I think we're sort of a slide away, so we need a slide and then another slide.
Oh, yeah, I
We
forgot
missed
to
a
say.
slide. That's
I
okay.
forgot to say next slide, please.
Next slide.
Keep going.
That's the final slide. Thank you. So as Lucy's mentioned, it's all about recognition of voices with lived experience. That's what we bring to the table. We're excited to see the City of Brantford's continued support and commitment to making the city be age-friendly. And we want to make it very clear that we're here to help. We would encourage the city's continued engagement with the Grand River Council on Aging and using the voices of lived experience represented by us in developing projects and programs. We invite the city to confer with the Grand River Council on Aging when seeking local feedback on initiatives being done elsewhere. For example, when working with the Ontario Association of Councils on Aging or the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility, the age-friendly outreach initiatives, the World Health Organization initiatives, and the Canadian Association of Retired Persons initiatives, just to name a few. And finally, because we believe that the Grand River Council on Aging can provide even more assistance through sustaining our organization, we would like to see funding for the Grand River Council on Aging in budgets supporting the Healthy Aging Plan. Once again, we appreciate the work that has been done so far and look forward to continuing our work together in building an age-friendly community. We thank you so much for your time this evening and are pleased to take any questions.
Thank you. We have a few minutes. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. They were very aware of the organization and questions are not required at this time. Okay. Now I would ask members of the Special Olympics Ontario Brantford Police Services, Special Olympics Brantford to come forward and speak to item 7.1, Special Olympics Ontario. You state your name and you'll have 10 minutes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kelly Mitchell. I am very proud athlete from Special Olympics, Brantford, Ontario. I've been participating for over 10 years. Special Olympics is really important to us, and here are some reasons why. Fitness and exercise, learning some new sports, developing skills, competing and making friendships, and new experiences. The Federal Games Summer Games 2025. This is the events that we have is athletics, softball, bocce, golf, soccer, and swimming. I wanted to come here tonight to tell you how important and exciting the athletes are to have the provincial games in Brantford Paris in the Six Nations. We have worked hard and to really develop and show our talents into the area to so many people are working hard to make these games happen. Thank you so much for sharing my excitement. Pretty soon we will be saying let the games begin.
Thank you, Kaylee. Your worship, counselors, thank you for your time tonight. My name is Rebecca Norton. I am the program consultant Major Games, and I work for Special Olympics Ontario based out of Toronto. I know council was previously notified about this event through a presentation from Chief Saunders and a bunch of Kaylee and her friends, our local athletes and volunteers. We just wanted to take a few more minutes of your time today to talk specifically about a partnership with the city of Brantford through yourselves. Next, do I do the slides here or you guys? Next slide, please. Special Olympics is a global movement of people creating a new world of inclusion and community, where every single person is accepted and welcome, regardless of ability or disability. This mission aligns with your community inclusion plan, and partnering with our provincial games will show your commitment to diversity and inclusion. Our journey to have these games hosted in Brantford started in 2019, as these were set to be hosted in 2021. We all know why those didn't happen. Brantford Police Service has remained committed to athletes like Kaylee, and with the support of the Ontario Provincial Police and the Six Nations Police Service, these games will finally take place next summer. Also, longtime supporters of Special Olympics, the Gretzky family has come on board to support and promote this event locally. We couldn't be luckier. We also wanted to take the time tonight to acknowledge the support we have received to date from city staff. From the Parks and Recreation Department to the tourism team, the openness to work collaboratively has been refreshing. Next slide, please. This event will take place from July 10th to 13th and will be a celebration of both sport and inclusion. In addition, this will also be the largest sporting event for individuals with an intellectual disability across the country next year. With over 1,100 team members from across Ontario in attendance, from Dryden to LaSalle Windsor to Brockville. There will also be a lot on the line with this event. Athletes competing next summer have been working hard the last 2 years to get here, and for some, this will be the highest level of competition they achieve. For others, this will be a stepping stone on their way to national and possibly world games. These games are unique compared to other similar-sized events that have come before us. 100% of event revenue is generated through fundraising, sponsorships, and hopefully partnerships such as this. We rely on community support to ensure we achieve our organizational goal of maintaining financial accessibility to these games. For our athletes, many of whom live at or below the poverty line, finances should never be a barrier to compete at an event such as this. That said, our athlete registration is the same as it was in the 90s, $50 per athlete. The true cost of these games, including travel from across the province, accommodations, competition, and other exciting events, account to over $600 per athlete. Next slide, please. I'll now turn over turn the presentation over to Detective Christine McCallum, a member of the Brantford Police Service and our games manager, to outline our specific asks.
Thanks, Rebecca. We are excited about the city of Brantford being recognized as a partner through in-kind sponsorship. We are being responsible with our ask that was submitted through a notice of motion. A summary of what was being requested was that all facility, field rental fees and permits be waived that are used for opening and closing ceremonies and competition. That includes the Wayne Gretzky Sports Complex, Kiwanis Field, John Wright Soccer Complex, and the Walter Gretzky Municipal Golf Course. That any financial loss to the golf course from not being open to the public be covered. That includes green and cart rental fees. That any ancillary provincial game and advertising expenses be waived. I want to further encourage that the City of Brantford staff be permitted to volunteer at the provincial games to support the Special Olympic legacy as evident by the presence of a local athlete here tonight. I'm hoping that each of you are available during the games to recognize the athlete's success and hand out medals. Thank you in advance for your time and support. And now Kaylee Mitchell would like to lead us in saying the Special Olympic oath before answering any questions you may have.
Today I'm going to do the athlete's oath, and I would like for you guys to help me out with it. Let me win.
Let me win.
But if I cannot win,
I cannot win.
let me be brave in the attempt.
Let me be brave in the attempt.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? I see no questions. Oh, Councilor Scully, go ahead.
My question's for Kaylee. What is your favorite event that I should definitely watch?
My favorite event is gotta be soccer.
Yes.
Cause,
Thank
you know,
you.
I definitely love kicking the ball, and I always like to try to score.
Perfect. I'll make sure I watch soccer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scully. And no more questions. Thank you, Kaylee. Did a wonderful job presenting today. All of you did a great job. Your item will be first on the agenda because it's so important. Okay. Thank you very much. Right after we have our delegations, we'll deal with your item. Thank you. Next, I'd like to ask John Haggith and Kelly Eden for the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 65 to come forward and speak to item 6.11, Brantford Transit Moving Forward Final Report. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to address you tonight on the topic of the Transit Moving Forward report. Please allow me to introduce Johnny Haggith, President Business Agent of the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 685, and I'm Kelly Eden, Vice President. We represent the frontline faces of Brantford Transit and Brantford Lift. Our members proudly serve our community daily, providing safe transportation to the citizens and visitors of our city. And with that, our members also see firsthand the struggles, frustrations, and service gaps with our current system. Our city has grown, but our transit routes and structure has remained the same for decades, creating a huge imbalance of service to our community. For years, we have watched Band-Aid solutions be applied to resolve one situation, only to create others, leaving our members, the frontline faces of transit, left feeling they are trying to perform the impossible. So I am sure you can appreciate our excitement when watching this plan come to fruition. Roughly 20 months ago, Mike Spicer, Director of Fleet and Transit Services, met with us and shared what at that time was a vision to revamp the system, to establish a transit network that would improve ride times for users, allow better flow from one end of the city to the next, and increase frequency and service. Through several town hall meetings with our members, Mr. Spicer and his management team have taken the time to listen to the operators and hear the stressors that they face daily due to an outdated transit system. Through collaboration, we have collectively done several different pilot projects, such as 20-minute service, rostering, and other projects looking for solutions within our current structure. As stakeholders, it was exciting to hear the many benefits to come from this study, such as reliability, frequency, directional route changes, to name just a few. This new focus is leading us in the direction of a network that our community can rely on, be confident in, and enjoy. It is a long-awaited breath of fresh air. We sit before you tonight to express our excitement and pledge our cooperation in making Brantford Transit and Brantford Lift the very best community resource to our friends, our neighbors, and our visitors. For these reasons and many more, the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 685, thank Mr. Spicer and his team for including us in this venture to get to where we are here tonight, but also to support the recommendations as presented in the report. Thank you.
At the end of your presentation? Okay. Any questions from members of council? I see that. Thank you very much. Your item will be coming up for, Mayor Davis, sorry.
Yes, I wanted to thank you very much for coming out tonight to speak to what I think is a very important issue that we're dealing with tonight, important not just for tonight, though, and for our future. But could you summarize for us from the perspective of the operators and those who probably best know our system and what needs to be done with our system improvement, the three most important changes or improvements in our transit system that are within or incorporated in this new plan moving forward?
Good evening, everybody. Some of the major changes are revamping the routes so buses can be on time. Getting more buses to accommodate the routes there in the service, and just to keep it flowing there, so we can get people to their destinations every day, wherever they have to go. But the route changes and the times are probably the main things.
So another question, right? So who do you see using the transit? Who is most dependent on our transit system that you see every day?
I see a lot of the seniors going to doctor's appointments, students, Laurier, that's full of students all the time. People, the Northwest buses that go to the factories in the morning, or the North End factories. It's a very, how can I put it? We carry quite a load of people every day now. It's got really busy over the last few years.
Thanks very much for that input.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see no more questions, but thank you very much for your comments, and we'll be dealing with it shortly. Thank you very much for showing up. That ends our delegations. We're going to move into presentations. But prior to moving into presentation, I'd like to ask the mover. I got Councilor Van Tilburg and Councilor Samuel as a seconder to waive the rules to allow the presentation for 20 minutes for the transit presentation. It's a very long presentation, and to do it justice, we need more than 10 minutes. So we'll do 2/3 for this. So is the mover okay? Mover and seconder. I see that. Okay. Call the question on this one.
Thank you. The motion to waive the rules carried on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Mayor Davis, Councillor Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Slash, Martin, McCurry, Carpenter, Hunt, Samuel, and Van Tilburg.
Thank you, members of council. I now ask Dennis Carr of Dillon Consulting and Mike Spicer, Director of our Fleet Transit, to come forward and to present regarding the 6-boat Brantford Transit moving forward final report.
Thank you very much, Chair Carpenter. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for us to be with you tonight to present the final report on our moving forward plan. I'd like to introduce to you Dennis Carr. He's a partner and the lead consultant on this project from Dillon Consulting, and he will be joining me in the presentation tonight. Also want to reintroduce our team. Jerry McElhone, our manager of transit operations, Shane Pepper, our manager of fleet services, Brad Smith, our transit planner, and our newest member of the transit team, our transit supervisor, Ben Rodriguez, in the audience, should you have questions for them as well. Also in the gallery, I'm very, very happy to see that we have our transit operators represented. We also have our local bargaining unit of ATU 685 here, as well as our transit inspectors. And I want to thank them for taking the time to join us here tonight to help us with this presentation. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dennis to kind of kick us off.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me here today. As Mike mentioned, we're here today to present the results of the transit service plan moving forward. The service plan started 20 months ago, and we had a number of different phases for our project, starting with project initiation. We then moved to engagement with members of the community and had several different methods to engage. Based on feedback received from that, we began to develop a plan based on what we heard and the analysis that we completed. We brought that draft plan over to a second round of engagement that we were able to present to members of the public. And we've made revisions to that plan and finalized that plan. We're here today to present that to you.
We asked the question, why now? And I think that's a very obvious question from what we've seen over the last number of years. We've seen the growth of the population here in Brantford, the growth from Laurier and Conestoga, the also significant growth that includes a diverse demographic shift throughout our city. And because of the growth, Brantford has also experienced a major economic growth as well in regards to our Grenada industrial area, the Northwest industrial area, as well as our retail sector. The current routes are severely outdated, and they've not kept up with our growth. Also, the investment in transit has been relatively stagnant. It's very clear to our community and to our users that the existing route structure simply no longer adequately services our growing community. I will ask that Dennis now take us through a little bit more.
Okay. So an important part of this review was focused on how Brantford Transit compares to its peer systems. One of the key conclusions that came from this review is that the annual service hours provided by Brantford Transit is approximately half of what your peer systems are delivering. While Brantford Transit has made the most of the service reflected in the high utilization in terms of boardings per revenue service hour, the boardings per capita is also about half of what you're experiencing from peer systems. And this really suggests that need to continue to expand the service to get it to where it needs to be, particularly with a growing population. From a financial perspective, the revenue generated from fares is also below the peer average, partially due to the lower ridership. Proposed service improvements, fare adjustments, and new fare technology that will better track things like UPass usage will help to increase this, along with the cost recovery ratio, which is already seeing an increase from what it was from the numbers presented today. Now, public engagement, as I mentioned before, formed a significant part of this study. This included an online community survey that was done near the beginning of the study, in which we received responses from over 700 individuals within Brantford. It included several stakeholder interviews where we spoke to members of the community, 2 rounds of public information centers, a number of different community pop-up events where we went to the community and asked them what they thought about the existing service and encouraged them to fill out our survey, as well as posting the draft plan online for individuals within the community to comment on and provide that direct feedback.
And so again, this engagement was probably one of the best engagements I've been involved in my entire career. And I will say that we heard a lot of the same messaging from many members of the community. Again, more frequent service, longer service hours, improved regional connections, coverage, especially in West Brant in the Northwest industrial area, a better east-west connection with minimal transfers, improved stop amenities, which includes benches, shelters, and accessible ways to get to and from the stop, more payment options, which includes Presto, as well as improved reliability. And then when we got together with the community again, we heard very much the similar, but some other things about support, much support for the proposed route changes that we came up. We did hear some things and we were able to tweak that. Routing suggestions to accommodate small gaps that originally posed that network. Desire for transit priority. And so when we speak of that, we talk about queue jump lanes, we talk about transit only lanes, we talk about signal priority. I will tell you that that's further down the road for us, but we have addressed that in other ways by eliminating transit routes on some residential streets. Higher interest in higher order of transit. So again, more reliability, more frequency, more reliability, and better integration with our friends at Metrolinx with Go Transit. In order for us to do that, we were very misguided and have been misguided for a number of years. So we needed to create a vision. We needed to make sure that the big piece of the puzzle was to create a mission and a vision to help identify exactly what Brantford Transit will deliver to the community, our customers and the community. Our vision is clear, concise, and states that we are committed to delivering a safe, reliable, and sustainable transit service that provides connections not only for work, education, shopping, and recreational opportunities, but also to medical appointments in Brantford and beyond. We're creating a transit network that moves the community. We're getting away from the hub and spoke model that you see today. And how we do this is very, very clear. We're committed to work together to connect Brantford with a customer-focused culture of safety and drive change. When you see this and hear this, it seems very, very simple, but I can tell you it's not. Brantford Transit has not led our staff or our customers in the most effective or efficient way. Our operators have delivered above and beyond by trying to drive the current route structure to keep the buses on time for the customers. They want to make sure that people meet the transfers. It's basically putting a round peg through a square hole, and I applaud our transit operators for the job that they have done because they have gone over and above. And again, they battle every day with congestion, construction, and the dreaded parked car. The mission and vision will guide us in our planning and our policy making and inform the customers of what exactly they can expect. Our route design principles have been created to enhance the level of service to address demand and ridership growth, decentralize service, and improve route directness. No need to be forced to go downtown to transfer. Design the routes to support improved reliability and improved frequency of service. Continue to find innovative ways is one of the key messages for all of our staff on how we're going to deliver that service, especially when we look at Sundays and we look at evening service, especially in our industrial areas. But I will tell you, it still meets the needs of our growing community, and we will listen attentively to our customers. We talked more about the design principles of what we're looking for. We talked about reducing the need to transfer, more effective routing, more effective transfers, and the ability to move through. This new system gives our community options and allows them to travel basically the way they want to travel, and we're not forcing them to travel the way that has worked for us in Brantford. And again, today's challenges: one-way service on almost all of our routes, scheduling challenges with having to force transfers at the downtown terminal, and again, rapid expansion in areas of Brantford that need to be serviced, and West Brant is one of them. Northwest Industrial Area, again, is another one. So what you will see as we move through this, I can press the right button. You seem to have lost the presentation.
Okay, so as Mike mentioned, the proposed plan is based on a service standards document which operationalizes the vision and guiding principles into a series of design standards and key performance indicators. This starts with a route structure that defines the key role for each route based on the land use and the market it services. So this structure starts with core routes that operate on major corridors with the purpose of providing direct and frequent service to key destinations. Local routes operate in residential neighborhoods with the purpose of connecting residents to local destinations and these transfer hubs and onto the core routes. Finally, we have a new service model, which is on-demand service, which operates in lower demand areas that may be difficult to service by a fixed route service. For each route type, minimum headways are recommended in the service standards document. Core routes will see a minimum 20-minute peak headway, while local routes will see a minimum 30-minute peak headway. In addition to this, service standards were recommended to define other key performance measures such as vehicle crowding, on-time performance, proximity to routes, and revenue to cost ratio. These standards and KPIs can be used to help monitor future performance and are the basis of future decision-making. So with these service standards in place, the route design began with the development of a core network providing direct and frequent north-south and east-west travel. Connecting residential areas of high demand to key destinations such as the downtown, Brantford General Hospital, the VIA Station, Brantford Commons, and Linden Park Mall. And again, this forms the spine of the network in which the other routes and services are built on.
Our proposed network will provide two-way service on most routes. The investment will kind of align with what our peers are doing. And as Dennis said off the top, we are well below our peer average. The routes will be aligned to major corridors to improve reliability. And we will also see improved coverage in the Northwest Industrial Area, West Brant, as well as North Brantford, and of course, wanting to introduce service out to Canesville.
Key part of our review included an understanding and recommendations for specialized transit. So Brantford Lyft currently provides door-to-door service for eligible persons with disabilities. Ridership has been recovering since the end of the pandemic, and this is anticipated to continue to grow with both a growing and aging population, necessitating improvements to the service that's delivered. The recommendations first focus on eligibility, including expanding eligibility to include other customer conditions based on functional ability to use conventional transit all or some of the time, revising the application form to reflect this change, introducing a recertification process to allow staff to have up-to-date information on the functional abilities of registrants, noting that conditions can change over time, and enhancing appeals process by creating an appeals panel to provide more transparency in decision-making process around eligibility. Several recommendations also involve how service is booked and delivered. This includes changing the trip booking window to between 14 days and 1 hour, reducing the need to plan in advance and allowing for more trip spontaneity, enhancing training programs, moving towards an integrated service model, which can take better advantage of the accessible fixed route network for registered customers that are able to use it part of the time or some of the time for some of their trips. Replacing outdated scheduling software, which can be used to better optimize services and integrate with between specialized and on-demand services, and updating policies and procedures to reflect these practices.
And of course, the fares, technology, and safety. One of our main goals here is to upgrade our aging fare system that is in there now, and we are getting very, very close to having a new fare collection system in our buses, as well as a automatic vehicle location being upgraded as well. So we want to do that, but we also want to look at how can we be compatible with Presto. We want to improve the opportunity to track all of the fares, especially of the 12 and under children, as well as the post-secondary students, so that we've got some great data to help us guide us in our decision-making process. We also want to simplify the fares. We want to introduce a fare capping program, which would allow an individual to use a bus so many times a month. And then after they've used it, the next ride and all the rides for the rest of the month after there would be at no charge. So they would pay as much as they would need to do at a cap, let's say $50, $60, and then the rest of the month would be free. We're looking at wanting to enhance and expand the affordability pass. Right now, we don't do a good job with our social services area, so we're wanting to create that opportunity to chat about how we can make transit more accessible for their clients. The other part as well, which is very interesting, is the transfer window. We're currently at 60 minutes, which doesn't really work well for the community, so we're wanting to expand that to at least 90 minutes. And of course, we want to get our employers, especially up in the Northwest Industrial Area, Bernada Industrial Area, to also buy into our transit program by offering passes to their employees that will allow them to get to and from work. Some of the technology that we want to upgrade, we want to upgrade our scheduling software. Right now, we do that very manually. We want to improve our passenger tracking with Google Maps, transit app, as well as Apple Maps. And of course, we do have our transit app available right now, which is working well for the community. That gives real-time bus arrival information and destination. We want to explore real-time messaging boards at transit terminals and potential hubs. We want to explore workforce management software as our staff grows, which again allows our staff to grow with us. Explore opportunities to incorporate transit signal priority somewhere down the road. I don't think we're ready for it yet, but we will be somewhere down the road. And upgrade our cameras to automate the video upload process. When we do have cameras currently on the bus, and it's such a long process for us to pull that video when we're doing an investigation on a collision or a passenger incident.
So the plan also comes with an investment in transit. The conventional service will require an approximate doubling of service hours, which puts you in line with the peer average that I mentioned before. Specialized transit will also see growth in service hours to accommodate the growth in aging population, as well as providing more choice and flexibility to your customers. This is anticipated to result in nearly 700,000 new annual rides on both systems. This will require an increase of approximately 11 peak 40-foot buses on the conventional transit service, which will help improve coverage, frequency, and provide more direct two-way service. On the specialized and on-demand side, which will be integrated using the same vehicle, the increase in peak vehicles can be accommodated by reducing the existing spare ratio, so no expansion vehicles are required. The new plan will also require an investment in infrastructure as the plan moves to a multi-hub concept, moving away from every passenger requiring to transfer at the downtown terminal. You'll see the need for some additional bus bays at some of the secondary hubs, including Brantford Commons, Linden Park Mall, and Sobey Sheltered Lane. Some of these will be off-street facilities, some will be on-street, and the conceptual design is still the next task that needs to move forward. Operating costs will also require an investment in just over 14 million for both conventional and specialized services. This will be offset by increasing fare revenue, along with an increasing revenue to cost ratio on both services. And thus the net operating cost over the life of the plan is anticipated to be about $10 million annually. Capital cost for fleet expansion for the 11 40-foot buses will cost approximately $9 million. Now, there is funding available to offset some of these costs, particularly on the capital side. There's a new permanent public transit fund that's available that can offset some of the costs to expand fleets and other capital and infrastructure investment. An update to development charges can also contribute to the expansion costs of fleet facilities and terminals. And with population growth and increased ridership, we anticipate an increase in Brantford's share of the Ontario Gas Tax Fund, which can also be used to offset some of the operating cost increases.
So you heard me many times when I spoke about this plan is that we're going to be bold. And what we wanted to do was come back with a plan that we felt was achievable. And we also wanted to give committee and council that opportunity to provide their feedback on how we would phase this in. So we are looking at a phasing plan, which is based over 5 phases. Specific routes to be phased together to minimize public confusion and ease the transition to the new network. The old night routes would be phased out as new day routes and enhanced evening routes would be added. And again, more flexibility for our customers and potential customers to move through the city. And so our recommendation in the report would be for us to look at phase 1 and phase 2 together, phase 3 and phase 4 together, and then phase 5, which is basically north of Power Line, as our third opportunity. I will tell you that we do have some flexibility with the phasing on how we do it, but the report is recommending that we bring to you any feedback we get from tonight's meeting to the estimates committee to actually finalize the costing. So if we decide that we want to do phase 1 first and then phase 2, we'll come back during the estimates committee to talk about the need for the budget request. I did tell you we would be bold. I will also be honest with you to tell you that this plan brings us where we should be. It brings us where investment should have happened over the years and didn't, but this brings us where we should be as a community. And we've seen a lot from our community that are expecting a transit network to move them through. So I want to thank you for allowing myself, Dennis, and our team that are here tonight to work through this. And we're very proud of what we're presenting tonight. And we'd like to now open it up for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mike. We're over time, but there will be questions available when it comes on the agenda for deliberations, and they can ask you questions at that time. So there'll be plenty of time for questions at that time. Thank you very much for your presentation. You'll still be on the list coming up. Thank you. Next, I'd like to ask to come forward to present regarding 6.12, the cemetery master plan. Staff, please come forward and give your name and present your plan.
Is it on now? Pretty loud, aren't I? Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. It's Kimberly Weisgeld, Director of Parks and Rec. And tonight we're pleased to present our cemetery master plan for your review. And joining me tonight is our consultant Amanda Gephardt from Lees and Associates, and also Mike Westwood, Manager of Cemeteries, Horticulture and Forestry.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us here today to provide the overview of the cemetery master plan. The vision of the plan is to create a sustainable cemetery system that provides relevant memorial spaces and services for Brantford's residents, integrates Brantford's rich cultural and natural heritage, and enriches the city's overall parks and trail system. The purpose is to guide the planning, development, and operations of the Brantford cemeteries, including expanding into lands available at Oak Hill and find new opportunities with Mount Hope Cemetery. To explore the potential needs required to ensure sufficient capacity and inventory to serve families for the next 25 years and secure long-term outlook for land capacity needs for the next 100 years. And to outline tools needed to sustainably and effectively operate a cemetery system. The master plan reviewed Brantford Cemetery's assets, which include 2 active cemeteries where sales are facilitated, Oak Hill and Mount Hope, 1 semi-active, meaning that facilitates interments only and no sales inventory, Greenwood Cemetery, and 2 pioneer cemeteries, Batson and Tranquility Cemetery, which function as park-like rest areas. The master plan assessed demands and needs, forecasting years remaining for each product the cemetery currently offers, with Muslim lots being the most pressing concern. These metrics helped inform land development needs and timing. Brantford has 4.5 acres of existing operational cemetery lands that could be optimized to generate burial inventory. This is projected to address Brantford's needs for the next 25 years and potentially beyond. Brantford has a remaining 18.1 acres that will allow the city to continue to serve the community for at least the next 100 years. The master plan outlines a phased approach and checkpoints to reevaluate the needs and pressure to develop. First actions include creating inventory within existing developable lands, followed by repurposing utilized cemetery lands. These efforts will address the needs for the next 25 years. After which the city can look to the feasibility to acquire, expand into adjacent cemetery lands, the purpose of which, existing city lands, the purpose of which to increase the lifespan of older cemetery sites. And then develop Oak Hill expansion lands. The approach provides time to confirm and coordinate with other city projects and strategic planning. The reserve of this land or that of similar acreage will provide security to Brantford to serve the community. This image illustrates the target areas for each phase. Areas in red, 1 to 5 years, is identified for infill. Areas in blue, 5 to 10 years, address expansion into the operational staging areas. Yellow, 10 to 15 years, that look at options to set up an office and operation facility at Oak Hill. And purple is the long-term range planning to address the future expansion. There's less opportunity at Mount Hope Cemetery, however, we know this is where there's the greatest community interest. The plan identifies an assessment of a portion of Prince Charles Park for cemetery use at the 10 to 15-year horizon. Currently, there is no interest or demand at Greenwood Cemetery, as confirmed through engagement. Further engagement, market testing, and development feasibility assessment is required before investment is made at this location. Tranquility and Batson cemeteries are inactive and have recommendations to reinvigorate these spaces to a more respective level of acknowledgement. In terms of costing for capital projects, development recommendations have been broken into 4 phases. Phase 1 includes low investment costs besides the upgrades to the operational building at Mount Hope. Phase 2 includes light development projects to optimize the use of the sites. And phase 3 and 4 continue to increase in the level of investment. There are options and variabilities in the anticipated level of investment. Many factors can influence or be applied to these numbers, including feasibility studies to determine the scope of specific components. Financial performance of operations was assessed based on a 5-year window. Currently, the cemetery is operating with a $382,000 annual average loss. The master plan illustrates the outcome scenarios if no changes are made and provides recommendations for a fast recovery approach that could see break even in the next 40 years. In terms of the care and maintenance fund, if Brantford continues its current trajectory, there will be a significant shortfall between the revenue generated by investment and the cost to care for the grounds. The plan recommends a fast recovery strategy to reach a sustainable fund outcome in 40 years. The plan is a working document designed to inform action and be flexible to respond to changing need. Approval of the plan will address the following specific items: product and service fee increases to align with market rates and operational costs, additional full-time staffing units executed as full-time staff, part-time staff, and/or contractors to secure delivery of services and improve working conditions. It includes bylaw updates to align with new products and services and foster efficiencies. Finalizing these bylaw changes will include additional internal and community engagement. Finally, capital investments to address facility improvements and develop new inventory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See no questions. There are no questions from members of the committee. Thank you very much. We'll be discussing this shortly. Members of the committee, make a small adjustment of today's agenda. In honor of Kaylee, we're going to bring forward, first of all, the resolution 7.1 Special Olympics, and I ask Councilor Semble, please read your resolution and your seconder.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Tilborg. Whereas Brantford has a long tradition of sporting excellence through hosting and servicing hundreds of local, regional, and provincial tournaments and events annually. And whereas the city of Brantford was officially recognized as the tournament capital of Ontario in the provincial legislation on June 4th, 1998. And whereas the city of Brantford's Economic Development, Tourism and Cultural Initiatives Department, Tourism Division, has identified sports tourism as a core target market since 2013. And whereas the city of Brantford's sports tourism strategy 2019 aspires to a vision that Brantford will be a leading sports tourism destination in structure, sports, and execution as tournament capital of Ontario. And whereas the Brantford Police Services has been awarded a bid to host the 2025 Special Olympics Ontario Summer Games in Brantford on July 10th to 13th, 2025. And whereas Special Olympics Ontario Summer Games will welcome 900 athletes along with their families and support workers to the city of Brantford. And whereas the mission of Special Olympics Ontario is dedicated to enriching the lives of Ontarians with intellectual disabilities through sport. Whereas the city of Brantford inclusive community plan aims to promote opportunities to support diversity, inclusion, and developing a community in which every person feels safe and welcome. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the following administration costs to support the event be funded from Council Priorities Reserve to a maximum of $50,000, waiving facility and field rental fees, recovering the value of golf green fees and cart rentals, waiving any permit fees required to execute the event, preparing John Wright Soccer Complex and Kiwanis Field for the events, including painting lines and additional grass cutting, administering, renting, staff, and cleaning the quench buggy or cost associated with an alternative solution, renting any waste containers or large garbage bins, dumpsters at John Wright Complex for the event, including picking up and dumping fees, renting up to 5 portable washrooms and 2 hand washing stations per site that do not have adequate washrooms facilities in place for the attendees, renting a shipping container at John Wright Soccer Complex for overnight storage or find a suitable location to store equipment or other materials for the duration of the event, fees associated with advertising the event on city buses, that staff from communications, community engagement, and customer service department be directed to design advertisements, and that interested City of Brantford staff be permitted to volunteer for the 2025 Special Olympic Summer Games where operationally feasible during regular working hours. And D, that the Director of Economic Development, Tourism, and Cultural Initiatives Department be directed to execute a sponsorship agreement between the Special Olympics Ontario and the Corporation of the City of Brantford to outline the roles and responsibilities for each party in a satisfactory form to the city solicitor or designate. And just to speak to that, I think we've heard very much tonight how important this is, and it's an incredible opportunity for our community as well as the athletes that are involved, and I hope that we can all support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any questions, any discussion? Councilor McCurry, you have the floor.
Chair Carpenter, thank you very much for recognizing my hand, and let me say you're doing a pretty good job so far, so. I guess I should say Councilor Samuel and I were at the event at Gretzky maybe a month or so ago, and it was really quite overwhelming to see the support for the local athletes and for the initiative and for us hosting the games. And it wasn't that long ago that we hosted the Plus 55 games, and that was a huge success and meant an awful lot to this community as well. And we're going to be offering the same sort of a program to City of Brantford staff to allow them to volunteer during work hours if they can be spared for the day or an afternoon from their regular duties. And I would say, given our experience with Plus 55, this is going to be a huge success. It's going to be such a really cool deal. And it's so great to recognize some of the Special Olympics athletes that live here and be coming from away. We have some financial concessions we're making, and it's money well spent, I think. It's just so emotional to see the Special Olympics athletes in action. So I hope everybody in the community is going to be excited about this. I know I am, and I could see the excitement on Councilor Samuel's face when we were at the event as well. So it's going to be terrific, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McCurry. I have Councilor Martin and then Councilor Hunt next. Councilor Martin, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Previously, when I was chair of the Police Services Board, I saw how involved the police were with this group. They're very dedicated to supporting this group, and I'm glad that they were successful in getting the bid for the games. Because I know the Brantford Police Department will be head and shoulders stepping up to the plate to make sure this event runs smoothly, and we have a lot of staff that have experience with the Plus 55 games, so that'll also help this whole operation run smoothly. And as chair of the paramedic committee, I'm happy to announce that it was approved at the paramedic committee that the in-kind services that were requested were approved as well. So that's all in place. So that's something that will help ensure that these games go smoothly. And if there are any problems, the measures are put in place to deal with them. So hopefully these games will go wonderfully, and we'll have a great final report after it's done to indicate that things went without a hitch and everyone had a great time, and hopefully the Brantford athletes win a lot of the medals. So we'll see what happens, but as it says in your pledge that to be brave in the attempt if you don't win, and I think that's a wonderful way to do it. And from what I've seen at various fundraisers, the athletes, it's not so much competition as working together. And it's really nice to see that in a group where they can cheer on someone who's competing against them and wish them success in their endeavor. So it's something that other athletes should look to and take example from. So I expect this will be a very successful games, and I look forward to being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. I have Councilor Hunt, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, first of all, I'm thrilled that we are able to host this, and my gratitude to our police service for the successful bid. There's just one thing that I'm wondering if it needs to be added in here, and that is transportation for the athletes. Is there a need for us to consider how they're getting from potentially hotels that may be out on the 403 to the different venues? And if so, is it appropriate for us to add the transportation costs?
Councilor Hunt, we'll ask staff member, they can provide that information. Transportation.
Yeah, through the chair, to Councillor Hunt, we can look into that and just take that as advisement that we'll look into the shuttles, what the athletes would need.
Okay, and so at this point, we wouldn't need to add that in, but it's anticipated that any transportation requirements would also be covered for the athletes as they need to navigate around our community for the games.
Thank you, Councilor Hunt. We'll have a clear answer to that question when it gets to council.
Great, thank you.
Indy nodding. Thank you, Indy. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, we'll call the question, sorry.
Thank you. Item 7.1, Special Olympics Ontario, carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Slats, Caputo, Sullivan, Secolia, Mayor Davis.
There you go. Kaylee, unanimous support. Thank you. Now, Councilor McCurry, please read the motion to place all separate items consent and previously voted on the floor.
Yes.
Would you try that with the mic on?
See, I'm not that loud, as you may have said. Yes, so moved. Councilor Martin is the second.
It's just so that people can at home can hear it, Councilor McCurry. Thank you very much. Must be moved and seconded. Now, then I'll take up the separated items. So the first item on the agenda is 6.1.3, empowering youth, City of Brantford. Any discussion from members of council? Seeing none, I'll call the question on 6.1.3.
Item 6.1.3, carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Slats, Caputo, Sullivan, Secolia, Mayor Davis.
And the next on the agenda is 6.1.5, healthy aging strategy from 2025-2027. Any discussion from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll call the question.
Thank you. Item 6.1.5, carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Slats, Caputo, Sullivan, Secolia, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, members of council. The next item is 6.1.1, the Brantford Transit Moving Forward Final Report. Questions or comments? Okay, I see lots of questions or comments. I think Councilor Martin, I caught you first, and Councilor Caputo, or Councilor Coley, then Councilor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to staff. You indicated the cost of this, and you also indicated there's a chance of getting some grants. Can you estimate what the cost will be per year, assuming we get the grants that are reasonably likely to get?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, we can provide that. We don't have it readily available tonight, but we can provide that based upon the recommendations that we're moving forward with.
Yeah, if we could have that before it comes to council, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. Councilor Secoli.
Yes, thank you. I don't have any questions. I think all of the documentation provided is incredibly chock full of information, so I don't have any questions, but I do want to say I know how challenging it's been in West Brant and specifically Winfield, and it's just rapidly growing. And I was just approached by a group of individuals a few weeks ago who surrounded me and was like, we need bus service like past Powell, you know, because there were some people that were having to walk 30 or 40 minutes just to get to the nearest bus stop because it is growing so rapidly out that way. And yes, I did do the walk and test it, and it definitely was quite the walk just to catch a bus. So I just want to thank you. And just to be clear, the people out on Oak Hill, they will have still some on-demand services should they require transit. And I know that there is a bus right now that is going right out front of the plaza. But that shouldn't be too far of a walk, right? Are there any concerns with that? The plaza where Tahini's is and McDonald's and Tim Hortons.
No, that would still be serviced by either a fixed route or an on-demand model.
Okay, so they won't experience any interruption. I know there's a lot of students that work there that are relying on the bus. The Presto app, my daughter has been like weekly texting me about us getting the Presto app because she travels all over. When can we anticipate that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't want to give false promises that we will be working with the Presto app. We are talking to Metrolinx. We are looking for better ways to integrate both services. So it's definitely high on the agenda on how we can do that. I know they've done that in other communities where they've had different fare collection systems. So we are speaking to Metrolinx staff about how we can make it easier for the customers to use Presto on our buses as well.
Full support for Presto. I know that a lot of communities around us are using that. Other than that, I think it's a great plan. I thank you so much. I know how hard you guys worked on this, and I thank you so much for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Councilor Secoli. Councilor Caputo, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to ditto that comment. I think if we had streets that were on a grid system, this would probably have taken you a quarter of the time to put together than what we have. You know, city planners 60, 70, 80 years ago should have fell asleep, and this is how the road was drawn out. I do have a couple of questions though. We talk about the NWA area, and we got bus routes that go out there longer now, right? So we could have people picked up at say midnight that work in those areas. Those are still direct buses to the terminal, am I correct?
Not necessarily to the terminal, but direct trips, depending upon what the routing is. So yes, so there will be transfers available. They will still have the ability to transfer. We're not forcing the transfer at the terminal. So if they don't need to go to the terminal, that won't be an option for them. They'll be able to go where they need to go quicker.
Okay, because that leads me to my next question. So if someone was leaving the industrial area and needed to get to either Echo Place or the western part of West Brant, how would that work for buses post midnight?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can tell you overall, the travel experience for the customer will be less than it is now because we're hoping that we're reducing the number of needs of transfer. Based upon an origin and destination, it's difficult for me to answer that specifically based upon the amount of service we have in time of day. I will tell you it's much better service than we're offering now, and it will allow people that ability to get home at certain times of the evening that right now may be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah. So you mentioned the transfer system. is there something that's gonna be done up with an app, and unless I missed it? So if I have to get from point A to point B, would I be able to, put that through the, website of the city and say, you'd have to take this bus, transfer to this bus, and then do they meet up at a certain time frame? Is it something similar to what you'd see in a major city?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the current transit app that we are using is probably one of the best apps that I have seen. We've heard a lot from our customers on how efficient it is and provides real-time information. The other part too is it gives people a real time of when that bus will arrive at that bus stop. So you don't have to be standing out in the dark. You don't have to be standing in the cold or the heat. You can actually make your way to that bus, and you'll know exactly when you're going to arrive at your destination. So that if you have parents waiting at home for you, you can say, I'll be home at 11:10 at that bus stop. So it's a great app, and we're very pleased with it.
Perfect. And just one last thing, the bus going down Kent. We've talked about this, you and I, forever and a day now. Is that going to be removed and altered and moved somewhere else?
So again, Councillor Caputo, I'm pleased to announce that with the new route structures, we will be using Oxford and not Kent.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Caputo. Councillor Slash, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, are we working towards a cashless system?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the short answer is yes, but I don't think we'll ever get away from cash. What we are trying to do with the new system is to allow people to load their smart cards, also the mobile app. Will we ever get away from cash? I'm not sure, but we're looking at significantly reducing the amount of cash that we collect on the fare box.
Good. Yeah, I think that's important to do for, if nothing else, for safety. I think it's important not to be carrying a lot of cash around. You mentioned a possible route to Paris. Have we reached out to the county and have we had discussions on how that could look?
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. We have met, we've probably met with county staff at least half a dozen times in regards to what it looks like. We have prepared a preliminary option of routing and preliminary options of costing. And so right now we are looking at what that model looks like. So we are talking about a route in and out of Paris through the Northwest Industrial Area, as well as opportunities in Kanesville. And then the third on the list is specialized transit to the residents of the county. So we're actively in discussions with the county staff.
Good. Yeah, you mentioned Kanesville, and in your presentation, you said there'll be improved service to Kanesville. Are we already servicing Kanesville?
No, we are not. Unfortunately, our customers are getting off at Garden Ave in Colburn and having to walk. So we want to improve that by providing, at the minimum, a couple of trips out there during the peak hours where people have to get to and from work. So we're going to meet with the area employers out there, understand what the needs are, and try and adapt to that well before we look at the service to Paris. And we're trying to integrate that now into this plan.
And that would be done and partially funded by the county to give coin to the county. Okay. Then I guess my last is development charges. Roughly what percentage of the capital expenditure that's required would be covered by development charges?
We'll have to get that back to you, Councillor Sluss.
Okay. Can you ballpark? Is it significant? Is it minor?
Through the chair, we haven't done that assessment for Brantford itself, but we do know that working through other municipalities on development charge reports, we can sort of see anywhere between 25 to 40-ish% benefit to growth.
Appreciate that response. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Slass. Mayor Davis, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Question, is Route 15 going to be part of the initial rollout?
I'm sorry, Mayor Davis, could you repeat that?
Route 15, will it be part of the initial rollout of the new system, assuming it's supported by council? It's not a trick question.
Yes, Mayor Davis, it will be.
What is the terminus point for Route 15?
It does connect to the downtown terminal.
What's the other end?
Brantford Station, which is the VIA station.
And what I'm looking at in terms of proposed roads, Road 15 is the one that'll be addressing the residents in the Johnson Road area.
I do believe that yes, that is correct. Sorry for the delay.
And where does Road 15 at?
Gainesville Community Center.
Right. Last time I checked, Gainesville's in the county. Is that correct?
Sorry, I missed that.
Gainesville's in the county.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead with Road 15, regardless whether or not the county pays.
No.
Portion share.
No, we're discussing that right now with the county. The expectation is that we're not doing it for free, but we will come into a cost sharing agreement to that.
Right. First of all, I wanted to say, moving away from Road 15, dealing with it more generally, you know, it's well overdue that we make a major investment in our transit system. And a warning to taxpayers, this is going to be a major investment. But frankly, it's been 3 decades since we did that. And that's actually, Mr. Chair, when I was on council in 1980s, when we constructed the transit terminal, that's the last time we did a major reset and investment in our transit system. And that was pretty major. And of course, it was based on the hub and spoke system. Everything coming into the downtown transit terminal worked great when we're a city of 65, 70,000. That system worked really well. We all know the current system does not work. We heard from the transit operators that we have students, we have youth, we have international students, we have Laurier students, Conestoga students, we have much of the workforce and seniors using bus system. We see it ourselves every day. The buses are full. The data tells us that we're riding pretty much at capacity on a lot of routes. We do get complaints, which frankly, I've never had before, which is I can't get on the bus, or I got to wait for another bus, or we're missing the transfers. And so we know that it's long overdue that we make a major restructuring of our transit system, but it takes courage, it takes vision, and also it pays to look at what other cities do. And when other cities have gone through our transition from a small city to a medium-sized or bigger city, you'll see their routes go from hub spoke to major routes. I saw this in Ottawa this summer, actually, Mr. Chair. I went to AMA. I rode their transit system quite a bit. You get the major backbone routes, and then you have all the routes that feed into those major arteries. And you have a number of different terminal stops. I saw that in the US. I went to a city in the US and rode their transit system. You see that again and again. That's the only way you can run a modern transit system in a larger city. So I commend our staff for looking at what it is we need, for listening to the riders, for listening to the residents, for listening to the operators, for listening to the inspectors, and designing a system that's going to work much better for those of us in our community that are dependent on transit, and all the employers that depend on their employees coming to them through our transit system. It's going to give us a transit system that's properly designed and will carry us through the next 2 to 3 decades. It's going to take a major investment. It'll be worth every dime. It'll be a challenge at budget. We'll have to look at phasing, but I think the community and the transit riders, future transit riders, deserve to know that this council supports that. But thank you for getting a little time there.
You a few seconds over, but it was worth it. Okay, thank you. Next, I have an order is Councillor Samuels, McCreary, Van Tilburg, and Sullivan. Councillor Samuel, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to say thank you for bringing us a bold plan. I think that it's great that we're looking at bringing us to where we should be. They talk about some of the best places for transit are where people take transit not because they have to, but because it's so convenient. And so I'm looking forward to seeing this. There's a lot of great things coming from this plan, such as direct routes to the mall and to the industrial center, and also the expanded transfer times, things like that. I look forward to hearing what the community has to say as they get to try this out. And I guess the only question that I really have is, as we're implementing this, I wondered if this is going to be a fluid process and you'll be looking at feedback as we go through and just making sure that it's working well.
Thank you for that. And through you, Mr. Chair, our goal would be that we would do extensive engagement with our community to teach our riders how to use the new system. We have the ability with the transit app to be able to have the old system on there, and they can also log on to the new system so that they can compare what their ride would be and directness. We will also be working with Dylan again to create the story map vision that we had online that people could go on and learn the system. So we will be engaging with the community, have public information centers to do some travel training. We'll do extensive training with our staff so that our staff can also teach riders and understand it well before we implement it. And of course, every year we'll be presenting an update report to council on how we're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate all of the engagement that you're doing with the community and going over and above to make sure that that happens. And I look forward to being able to support this tonight so that we can make the big changes that are needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Samuel. Councillor McCurry, you have the floor, sir.
Chair, thank you. I think the most important takeaway from tonight is the presence of our staff in this room and their support for this plan and the input they've had into it. I think they know best how it doesn't work and how it can work. And I think that's something of a testament to the leadership of Mr. Spicer and the input from the consultant and the sheer innovation of this plan. You know, we can't continue to do the same thing we've done for all these years and expect a different result from it. And, you know, the implementation of the core routes and the feeder routes reminds me of a couple of years ago when I lived in the city of Toronto. You know, the core routes are our subways, so to speak, and the feeder routes are the cars and the buses. And I think this innovation is going to do us justice in the long term by using long streets as core routes. It's brilliant. Simplicity, but brilliance. Questions I do have though, because I feel a bit remiss in not having a couple of really tough questions for Mr. Spicer. I wonder if you could tell me, sir, if the frequency of the West Street bus will be more frequent than you're running the routes now.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the West Street bus actually isn't the West Street bus anymore. It actually starts in West Brant and then proceeds to the downtown core and then continues on to West Street. And again, that's one of the core routes. So we would be looking at 20-minute service both ways every day.
So will it run more frequently? You're going two-way now, right?
Correct.
So will it run twice as frequently? What's going and what's coming?
Yeah, they will meet. Both routes will meet at various parts. Whereas right now we go out and we turn around and we come back. So there's definitely a lot more frequency on both ways.
Will bus patrons have a longer walk in some cases to get to a more frequent bus?
Depending upon where they live, because we've looked at reducing some of our routes that are in residential areas. We struggle with parking. Parking on one side is difficult. Parking on both sides is almost disastrous. And so what we've looked at in some cases, we wanted to move that over to an arterial route that would then allow for people to walk in order to get frequency. And in the transit industry, the basic model is people will walk a little bit further for frequency. What they won't walk for is something that they can't count on. So, and where individuals can't walk, there is Brantford Lift available, and we'll also be looking at supplementing that with on-demand.
Now, there's also reference to the bylaw. Am I correct? Is there any change in bylaw that we need to make as a result of this?
That will be presented as the fees and services bylaw that comes during estimates.
That's the only change with respect to bylaw.
Correct.
Okay. And you're planning to construct a number of smaller terminals, is that what I understand?
That is correct. And so we're calling them terminals/hubs. And we've identified in the report what the criteria of each of them would be. We are looking at wanting to, in some areas of the city, especially the Northwest, provide an area for our drivers to get some comfort, a little bit of a rest zone, use the facilities, maybe grab a bite to eat. And in other areas, it will just be an off-street turn off that they would then turn into.
So in terms of the hubs where you service more than 250, I think it's 250 customers a day, is that the criteria?
Through the chair, there are certain design guidelines that were identified based on the nature of the hub and the amount of infrastructure investment that goes into it. So certain hubs, based on the level of investment that we put into it, requires higher ridership, more frequency of services connecting to it, and sort of lower ridership hubs where simply two routes connect to don't need that same level of ridership because the level of investment is not as great.
And these will be handsome yet frugal and kind to the taxpayer, little structures, will they?
That's time, Councilman McCurry. You want to play back?
Yes.
on it?
All finished. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councilman McCurry. Councilman Tibbert, give the floor, sir.
Well, most of my questions have already been asked. Oh, wait. I consider this to be the most transformational change in our bus system than we've had in 30 years. The mayor is absolutely correct. There hasn't been anything that has been any different, except the city changing. And the city is different. And the city has went up and the city has went down, and ridership has went up and our ridership has went down. But something that had been consistent for more than 10 years, and certainly from the time that I got on council, was that our bus system, with low ridership and now with high ridership, it was the same problems. It wasn't working. It was failing those. Even when we had low ridership, we were failing. We were not getting people on time. We were not getting them to work. We were losing a ton of money. We have a whole different situation right now where we have high ridership and the ability to make the bus system beneficial to all who use it, so that I won't be hearing the complaints of the bus is slow, the bus didn't get me here on time, the bus is speeding, trying to make up time on my residential street. That was a very often a call. And, we can understand that. So with that change, with this major transformational change, it's going to require some longtime users to change. And that may be difficult for us to get your grasp on. So how do we make sure that we're communicating through each phase? Where they're supposed to be, how they ride the bus, which way to go? Is that done through, not everybody has an app. Is that done with memos on the bus? What's the way that we keep people most informed on how I'm going to call it a new bus system, because to me it is. It's not the same. It's not going to be anything like we had. So how do we get that through?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's a great question. And I guess part of that is our job to make sure that our staff are informed, to make sure that our users are informed. Word of mouth is probably the best form of getting information out there. And we certainly see that through social media right now when we mess up. That seems to get out there and people will tell us about it. We don't see often, the good news stories. So I think our goal is to ensure that we have proper communication channels, whether that be through our own social media, our corporate social media, as well as, signs on the buses, doing public information centers. We learned through the engagement with this plan that the more engagement that you do and the more transparent you are in what you're asking and what you're listening for and how you respond to that will get you great results. So, I'm very confident that this plan will allow us the time to effectively get out to the community and reach out to areas that we normally don't reach out to and have that conversation, make ourselves available. I'm probably one of the loudest people to talk about transit in this community. And I think we're going to get the rest of our staff on board to do that, members of council and our city get behind a transit system as we transform into a network. And again, we'll do our best to try and get out to everybody we can. And those that we can't, we'll make sure that the next time we get out, we do that.
Yeah, so to get to this phase, and that's why if I had just seen this first time popped onto me, I would actually be frightened. So much change. I would go, wow. But here's what I do know. It's a level of communication that you've done to get to this process. The people that have ridden have seen this. They've had the ability to engage and to make their comments known. And something that I think has probably been missing in previous invocations of when we've tried to address transit is that we haven't actually had a good conversation with our frontline workers, and this time we have. what they see versus what the riders see, and they're seeing the same thing sometimes, but it all doesn't come together. There's all that insight that we get off those that actually drive those buses. And so to take their comments and their ideas into account on how this should function, this is why I have significant confidence in this plan.
Thank you.
So I thank you all.
Thank you, Councilman Gilbert. At your time. Councilor Sullivan, you're next, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, great job, Mike. I know this has been very tedious to say the least. We've had numerous conversations while this whole process has been going on. Question I have, are you still looking into the potential of some form of an express bus that does like every third stop as opposed to stopping at everything, especially during rush hours to and from work?
Through Mr. Chair. So the core routes are kind of designed from that perspective. We are looking at bus stop placement, spacing. We've not developed a quasi bus rapid transit system yet, but we wanted to start out with the core routes. We wanted to reduce the number of times that we stop and allow that walking distance. So this will be the first step. The second step was how do we move people quicker? Again, dealing with the same congestion that we do each and every day. So I think the longer term plan where we will see bus rapid transit along Colburn Street or along Gretzky Parkway will definitely be somewhere down the road for this system.
Perfect. Once again, thank you and your staff for all the hard work.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. Second time Speaker, Council Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You are doing a great job tonight. Mr. Spicer, there ain't no one nicer, man. And, you know, the amount of communication we've had over the couple of years since I've been here, this is an absolute great job. And so, great job. We are a growing city. We talk about being close to 150,000 people over the next several years. Our densification corridors are going to grow. Our downtown is going to grow. We're going to have a lot of buildings, high rises, apartments. We have a population that's aging, that's going to be going from homes into apartments or something else. We need to really consider where we're going to be in 25, 30 years from now. And this is an absolutely phenomenal start. We have the new boundary lands coming on board. We're going to have another industrial park coming down power line into to the old schoolhouse. We're going to have Balmoral is going to have another residential site on board. West Brand isn't slowing down at all. This is mandatory. As a council, we need to see where the money's going to be. How are we going to get this accomplished? Because as Councilor Van Tilbrook said, this is a major step in our community going forward. So I applaud you. I applaud you for getting buses off of smaller streets in order to keep them onto some, throughway areas. And, it's a great job. And I think where we're going to go in the future and where we are today, this is a huge opportunity for us. Great work. Totally support it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Caputo. And I'll just take before we call the vote, just a few quick comments. I'd like to say that the mayor said it very well, actually, about long overdue. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a former councilor, Rick Weaver, Ward 1, who brought forward a transportation plan some time ago, and we actually didn't follow through. As council, we kind of backed off on it, and never did meet the requirements of that new transportation plan. But what you hear here tonight, this is a watershed moment, because what you hear here tonight is members of council very supportive of what you've done here, Mike, and your team. Great work. You can see you got council support. It's a budgetary item, and as the mayor said, we're a growing city. We're becoming a metropolis. We better have a transit system that matches the kind of city that we're becoming, and that's what we're talking about here. So thank you very much. And that, having said that, I'll call the question.
Thank you. Item 6.1.1, Brantford Transit moving forward. Final report carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Sluss, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokolian, Mayor Davis.
Thank you. Now, the next item we have is 6.1.2 is a cemetery master plan. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the Mayor Davis, onto the wire.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. Wanted to thank staff and the consultant. Not quite as flashy as the transit report. You know, we weren't exactly dying to hear this report, but however, it is critical. It's an important service that we provide, and that is cemeteries, and making sure the cemeteries are properly managed, and they're managed as we're trying to do the transit system to accommodate future growth. Kind of hard to put that in the context of cemeteries, but the reality is they're needed, and we have to plan for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Staff, the consultant have done an excellent job, and they've done it on a, you look at the plans that they have to not only deal with anticipated demand for growth and demand for cemetery space, but if we also dealing with situations where, say, there is a need that arises, like, say, for example, there were a pandemic. They have alternate plans that can rapidly increase the amount of cemetery space, but also dealing with the needs of some of our minority groups. And that, of course, the Muslim community, they have very specific requirements for a cemetery, and they've accommodated that in this plan. So I commend staff. It's a sound, reasonable, very thoughtful plan they've come up with. A lot of hard work went into it, a lot of input from the public. And I just want to thank staff for doing that. Didn't want to let this go without that comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having heard that, we'll call the question.
Thank you. Item 6.1.2 carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Slash, Caputo, Sullivan, Sequoia, Mayor Davis.
Well, that concludes all the items that we had delegations for. So we move into the items that were separated by members of council. That would be 6.18 and 6.19. So we're on 6.18, Tollgate Road Neighborhood Traffic Safety Review. Council Caputo, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I separated this because I just wanted to get some clarity, ask some questions, and at the same time make a comment. We definitely need to look at Tollgate Road and how we're going to be able to move people in and out of there on a much better basis and keep it safe. But one thing that I do not want, and I don't want it on Tollgate, I don't want it on Balmoral, I don't want it really anywhere in Ward 2, and that is bike lanes. I just want to out to staff, can we eliminate the bike lane strategy from this particular route as well as Balmoral?
Good evening, Mark Jacklin, Director of Operational Services. So through the chair to Councilor Caputo, yeah, we could definitely look at that. Obviously, it's just section 9.1 of the report. There was other changes that we did want to make as part of the safety plan.
So another quick question pertaining to bike lanes. What was our cost on the master transportation plan for bike lanes throughout the city?
Through the chair, it was $400,000 per year over a 10-year period. That would be put in the capital budget, and then there'd be some other changes that we made through any capital improvements to some of the roads.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to speak to bike lanes. Would I be able to make an amendment to have it removed from this? Can I make a
amendment to the resolution? Yeah.
the resolution?
Yeah.
So I'd like to make an amendment that the actual bike lanes be removed from the Tollgate traffic safety review, and seeking a seconder, Councillor Sluss.
I see Councillor Sluss seconding that. Okay, we're on the amendment. You want to speak to the amendment now?
Yeah, a lot of residents have reached out to both Councillor Sluss and I on an ongoing basis, and it really has pertained to bike lanes. We got it down Balmoral. Years ago, there was a petition put forth, had it put aside, and then all of a sudden now part of our master transportation plan was to go down Balmoral. I don't believe they're needed. I don't want to spend the money on them. I think that we can better utilize our funds in a different capacity. I do respect the work that's been done on this, but at the same time, I think we need to look at our residents and look at what it is that they're looking for. And Tollgate being a through street, I think we got a little bit bigger fish to fry on that road to figure out how we can do it. And I'm sure Councillor Sluss is going to speak to it as well. I'm hoping that that gets approval on this particular thing from councillor approval. So I'll leave it at that for now.
You got some good. Councillor Slush, you had your hand up on the main motion. Did you want to speak to the amendment?
Yes, if I could, Mr. Chair.
I'll let you speak to the amendment now.
Okay, yeah, so I seconded that because well, I appreciate the fact that Councilor Caputo doesn't want them on Tollgate. The residents don't want them either. They were quite adamant on the phone, the number of calls that I've had. But the rest of the report is excellent. So I would hope that the takeaway from staff would be that we proceed with what we were going to do minus the bike lanes. And I believe that's the intent of the resolution. I hope that's the intent that's been assumed by staff, because everything else on there is fine. And I agree with the residents, Mr. Chair. If you go down to Tollgate Road, which I do often leaving my home, if you go there during a Ferrero shift change, the traffic queues from the intersection at King George and Tollgate back to Tollgate Tech. And that's crazy. It takes a long time to get up to the stoplight to make a left or a right or go straight through at King George Road. Try it around 3:15 on a weekday, and you can't get through. So to eliminate a lane in each direction, for the sake of the 7 or 8 bicycles that might go down there in a day, it just, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And as I said earlier, to the residents, it makes no sense. So I would hope that council would support this amendment. I know a lot of work's gone into it, and I know there are diehard bike riders that want bike lanes, and I can appreciate where they're coming from. But on a street like this, where congestion is already an issue, I think when we entertain the planning committee proposition to build an apartment building on King George Road, which is currently under construction, the traffic study of that project said that the capacity at King George Road and Tollgate was already at over capacity. So we're just making a bad situation even worse by trying to plug up that and have one lane going in one direction. It just until we can do something with that intersection, we've got a real problem there, and I don't think we should add to it. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Slush. In order, I have Van Tilburg, Sicoli, Martin, and Mayor Davis. Councilman Tilburg, you have the floor.
This is an interesting one. Because based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like the ward councillors have done their homework on the street. And I've had to do that in the past for our own ward. We've put up bicycle lanes and we've removed bicycle lanes. What caught my attention about Tollgate is that I do know that that is probably one of the larger cycling hubs. That's the area where people are gathering. When you talk about the long lines going down to Ferrero Rocher, I lived on Hardy Road, which connects to Tollgate Road. And if you know anything about Hardy Road in that area, it is Bike City. That is where all the cyclists are. And if you're driving to Ferrero, you're driving by a lot of bicycles, and you're driving a lot of 2-by-side bicycles that are driving to work. So, you know, from my perspective, you'd almost think it would be a natural fit. So I don't know. I'm certainly the residents there could say, yeah, that's not for me. But when we're doing transit and somebody's just said this is a major arterial hub and one of congestion, then one would think that this is something that you should have to keep the traffic flowing. So I'm a bit puzzled because it is a connection. I can understand sometimes where residents have seen where we put them up and they say, we don't believe these are working so well. And I think each one needs to be analyzed on how well it's working. Now, I know there's been a pushback on bike lanes and that provincially. I myself am a fan and not a fan depending on how they're done. I think each group has to be taken independently. So I would like to hear more input from the community at large with regards to this, and weigh it. I could be wrong, and that's fine if I am wrong. But I do believe, just based on my anecdotal, hanging out at the Paris Donut shop there and seeing how many cyclists meet up from all areas, especially from Henderson Survey. This kind of has caught my attention. So I don't know I'm going to vote on this yet. I just think it may be premature. I might even consider a deferral on it until we get some more information.
Thank you, Councilor Gilbert. Councilor Foley, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I'm a little conflicted on this one, to be honest. I know the province is sort of coming down on bike lanes due to, you know, gridlock and increasing the flow of traffic, but I'm not totally convinced that this is the case here. I don't see how on one hand, we're really excited to make improvements to our public transit and then not be supportive of other means of transportation within our city, because all of this helps to alleviate traffic congestion and gridlock and provides a safe place for people who want to seek alternate methods of transportation within our city. Our city is growing and it's changing, and I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm going to listen to everybody else, but I can't help but ponder, you know, are we building a city for who's here right now and today, or are we building a city for the future? Are we building a city for who's going to be living here in 5, 10, 15 years and giving that consideration? So I haven't made up my mind yet. I want to take the lead from the ward councillors, but I'm not totally convinced this is the most optimal solution at this point.
Thank you, Councilor Sepoli. Councilor Martin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to staff, did the congestion that Councilor Suss was talking about, was that taken into consideration when the proposal was to put bike lanes on Tollgate?
Through the chair, David Ferguson, Manager of Traffic Services. Yes, whenever we look at these roadways, we investigate the level of service and what the impact will be. So we found no concerns with respect to the segment of roadway that it would have an impact.
Okay. What people forget is bike lanes aren't necessarily about bicycles. Bicycle lanes are about a road diet. It takes a 4-lane road down to 2 lanes to reduce the speed, because the speeding is reduced. When you have more lanes than you need, it feels like a raceway. It feels wide open. People tend to drive a little faster. This is about speed reduction. And this whole report is about controlling speed. Speed bumps, always stops, bike lanes. It's all to reduce speed within the neighborhood. So either you want speed reduction or you don't. You can't say, well, we want it here, a little bit of this, but not that. So I won't be supporting the amendment. I'll support the main motion, whether the amendment carries or fails. But because I think a lot of the things in this report are very good and are certainly beneficial for the neighborhood. But the mistake a lot of people make is, oh, I hardly see any bikes on the bike lanes. Well, it's not about bikes necessarily. It's about reducing the road space to accommodate speed reduction within the neighborhood. And if going from 4 lanes to 2 is going to be a problem, then we should be looking at expanding it to 4 lanes from the bridge over the 403 to King George Road, because it's 1 lane each way through there. Hardy Road is 1 lane each way. Then you get this 4-lane section in between, and staff are recommending take that down to 1 lane each way as well, so that it fits in with the general traffic pattern that's there. It reduces speed, and anytime somebody is doing the speed limit, that forces everybody behind them to do the speed limit, because they don't have room to get around them to pass, because there's only 2 lanes instead of 4. So I understand where the ward councils are coming from, but I think the bike lanes are the right way to go in this area, because I don't see Tollgate being busy enough to require 4 lanes. And that's evidenced by the fact that on either end of the 4-lane section, there's 2-lane sections. So going down to 2 lanes, I don't think will be that big a dramatic change for that area. So that's why I won't be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. Mayor Davis, you have the floor.
Yeah, I might want two speaking opportunities in this, because first of all, I got some questions for staff through you, Mr. Chair. So this is not going to be a bike lane right from Paris Road to King George Road on Tollgate Road. I got that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Right, so the section that's going to have a bike lane, in fact, I read it here, the proposed bylaw is 132 to a point from Paris Road to a point 132 meters east of the center line of St. George Street. What does that correspond to? Does that correspond to where the 4 lanes begin?
Through the chair, so that's the section where it goes down into the bridge. That's where that is.
Right, so that's where it widens out to 4 lanes, right? So you're not talking about putting a bike lane over the bridge and over on Tollgate up to King George Road.
Through the chair, that's correct. The section over the bridge will just be a signed route shared roadway type of feature.
So I realize you've been trying to create a system of bike paths in the city where we have like an east-west bike path, and we have 2 north-south. How critical is this piece to our overall bike path system?
Through the chair, so this segment of roadway is ranked 19th out of 111. So it's in the top 20 locations.
Right. And so this is going to be a critical piece in maintaining a continuous bike path link from the east end of the city to the west end of the city where all the industries are, the northwest.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Right. It was interesting, Mr. Chair. I spoke to Mary Musson earlier this week about the importance of so Mary Musson is in charge of our social services area, which includes Ontario Works and many of the people that live in the housing developments that we have in the city. And I asked, how important are bicycles to people who are in this situation where they're receiving Ontario Works, or maybe they're making minimum wage? And she said, from her perspective, it's absolutely critical. There's a large portion of our population that they can't afford vehicles, but they're working. They find it hard to afford transit, and many of them do rely on bicycles to get to work. And you think about Tollgate Road, that's a major entryway into one of the largest employment areas in our city, the Northwest. Like if you live almost anywhere in the city and you want to ride a bike to a job in the Northwest, that's where you're going to probably ride your bike. It's also if you look at Henry Street, it's a really effective speed control mechanism. Councillor Martin's right about that. So I certainly would like to have the benefit. I'm not sure if Mary Musson's on tonight, but I certainly would like to. I think we should all have the benefit of her input and her perspective. Is she available to answer a question? Mr. Chair? Probably not.
I don't believe the chair. No, she's not online tonight.
All right. Well, certainly, I'm really hoping that she'll be able to speak to this when we deal with this at council, or maybe even give us a letter. But I think, to the point that Councillor Sicoli said, we design a road system. We've got to be thinking about the next generation. And there are many people, the younger people, who simply cannot afford vehicles, and bicycles are an important part of how they get around the city and get to their jobs. And at the very least, I don't want to see bike paths all over the city. That's a problem. But we do really want to have at least one continuous east-west bike path, and probably 2 north-south. And that is what a modern city is all about. So I will not be voting for the amendment, despite the fact I usually listen to ward councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right on the time. Council Samuel, you're next.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Similarly, I'm quite torn with the situation as well tonight. I realize that I'm generally a big advocate for active transportation and know how important that is to our community. And a big part of what has has people not using the bike lanes is the fact that they don't connect properly. And so you really don't have bike lanes that get you across to where you need to go. And I think that we do need to be building a city that has all modes of transportation taken into account. And so as much as I normally would lean towards supporting the ward councillors, I'm gonna have to give this some more thought as well. And maybe not support it tonight, but hopefully we'd have more information from council, and then the decision can be different. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Salma. Moving into second time speaker, Councilor Sless.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's interesting that if we put a sign up saying share the road, it's safe to go over the bridge on the 403 on Tollgate Road. But it's not safe if we just put a sign on the street there saying share the road. Everybody's gonna have a problem because there's not a bike lane. I don't follow the logic there. If it's safe to put a share the road sign and get people over the bridge safe, then it should be also assumed that if you're putting those signs along the roadway, that it would be safe on the roadway, that people would understand they share the road. Having said that, we're talking about the city growing, and that's inevitable. The city is growing and it's growing fast. It means there's going to be a lot more cars. All the new people are not going to leave their cars where they moved from and buy bicycles. They're going to be driving cars. It's a wonderful, I guess, vision for the future that everybody's going to drive a bike, but the reality is they're going to drive cars. And I don't see the wisdom in this. What I would ask if it would make folks feel more safe or more secure in their vote, if we further amended this, that we approve everything except the bike lanes and that staff be asked to go out and speak to the residents about their feelings on bike lanes.
As the chair, I'm happy to add that to the actual original amendment, but it still is.
Okay, if that can be friendly to the original, then I would add that in there, that more consultation take place with the street residents regarding their street and their feelings on bike lanes on their street.
Good night, speakers. Councilor Foley.
The bike lanes on Oak Hill, I believe I heard that they're the most used bike lanes in Brantford at this point, or one of the most used. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
So just by way of using something that I've been through to help and share my experience with other counselors sitting up here, there was a fair bit of resistance on those bike lanes at first for myself and Councillor Sullivan. The neighborhood wasn't necessarily very receptive at first, but now it is the most used bike lane in all of Brantford. So I'll leave that there. Sometimes, change is scary and the neighborhood doesn't necessarily understand or see the vision that we should be seeing as sitting up here as the council of the city of Brantford and looking at the big picture perspective for all of the residents in the city.
Thank you, Councilor Foley. First time speaker, Councilor McCurry.
Chair, thank you, and through you, Snow. Removing the bike lane component from this traffic plan, does that require a complete redo of the plan?
Through the chair, wouldn't require a complete redo, but there would be several sections that we would have to omit from this, including 9.1, number 1, number 2, and number 3.
So you'd have to revise that and then come back again. Is that what I understand?
Through the chair, yes. If the bike lane does not go through, those are the 3 that we'd have to review.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, seeing no further speakers, I just had a few comments. I remember when this discussion came up about Brentwood Park Road, and the residents were opposed to it there because they would have lost parking on both sides of the street, or one side of the street for certain, and it didn't fit. To the issue about the bike lanes on Oak Hill Drive, that's connected. It's the most used because it's connected to the Gordon Glaves Trail system, which is part of Oak Hill Drive. I've rode it myself many times. Okay, having said that, I'll call the question on the amendment.
Thank you. And the amendment lost on a recorded vote of 4-7. All those voting in favor are Councilors Caputo, Celeste, Carpenter, and Van Tilburg. Those opposed, Mayor Davis, Councilor Coley, Sullivan, Martin, McCrary, Hunt, and Samwell.
Okay, the motion has not amended. Any comments? Call the question.
And the resolution 6.1.8 carried on a recorded vote of 9-2. All those voting in favor are Councilors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Carpenter, McCrary, Martin, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mar Davis. Those opposed, Councilor Caputo and Slack.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to 6.1.9, and Council Sullivan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff. Quick question. At one point, we were looking at closing Valentine. And with closing Valentine, there wouldn't be a need for the expenditures for bike lanes going in through that area. Is that not on the table? Have you not gone and looked down that path of closing Valentine completely right at the Lorne Bridge?
Through the chair, we haven't looked at that, closing the actual street.
Okay, I would recommend that be the option we look at before we commit to spending $90,000 on bike lanes.
To the chair, if I can add, council may recall there's a property that we purchased, and there's a master plan for the Lorne Park, and that includes realigning Valentine into Gilkison. So my suggestion or advice to council would be once that plan is connected into Gilkison, that connection to Colborne would be closed anyways as part of that work. So that might be something to consider.
I'll ponder it.
Council Sokoli, you're next.
I'll echo the sentiments of my ward mate that I'm not sure we have any reason for Valentine to be there. I would love to see that perhaps closed off using those emergency pieces. I know we're going to make some adjustments in the area, but I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's any property that requires that street for access exclusively. And we could just have a big, long, beautiful multi-use pathway there, and we could repurpose some of those speed humps that we were going to put on Valentine and put them near the soccer fields down on Spalding, and just have one great big dedicated bike path in the area. But I'm going to reach out to staff between now and council and just really make sure that we're not missing anything. I don't want to do anything on the fly that will impact us down the road. But moving forward, this report comes as a result of Councillor Sullivan and I doing our tour of Ward 1, and we're going neighborhood by neighborhood and really looking at the neighborhoods from a smaller perspective to make sure that we're really hitting all of the very specific needs of the neighborhoods within the ward. This one was really well attended, and it's been greatly impacted as far as traffic goes based on or because of the growth happening more westernly from this point. So there's been a ton of traffic influx going into the area. I do have one question, one thing that jumped out at me, and that's the Colborne Street West, a traffic light going in at Colborne and Sherwood. There's a lot, I know that curve there people are speeding around that curve, and I really think it's just a result of, or a symptom of frustration of by the time people are getting over the Lorne Bridge, there's traffic light, like one after the other. And I'm really concerned that by sliding in a 5th or 6th traffic light in that small stretch, that we could be just basically punting the problem of speeding down Shellard as opposed to where it's happening right now. I think the original discussion was just to have a crosswalk there, because there was a whole neighborhood, Dryden and Lindsay, they had nowhere really to cross to access bus stops or like convenience stores on the other side of the street. They had to walk a fair bit. So what was the masterminding or the brain power behind making that a traffic light as opposed to just a signalized pedestrian crosswalk?
Through the chair, that's actually a truck route. So the trucks are having a really hard time making any turns there. So that's why we decided to install the traffic signal.
Off Sherwood.
Yep. Right at Colby.
You caught me there, Mark Jacqueline. All right. I'll ponder it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sokoli. Councilor McCurry.
Chair, thank you. If I read this correctly, we're going to be spending almost $1 million on measures over the next couple of years. Is that correct? 683 and 270.
Through the chair, that's correct, over 2 year period.
I realize probably staff here can't answer this question, but I just wonder how many traffic police and speed cameras that would buy. And maybe that's a question that staff could take under advisement. You know, we're spending a lot of money on paint, speed bumps. Maybe we just need more people on the street to catch speeders and enforce good behavior.
Thank you, Councilor McCurry. Any no other comments? Just some good work here done by both Ward 2 and Ward 1 councilors with their neighborhood meetings and come up with some good suggestions. We do recognize that this particular item may change slightly when Councilor Sokoli and Councilor Sullivan consult with staff by the time it gets to the council, as I've been told. So I'll call the question on the vote.
Thank you. Item 6.1.9, West Brant Neighborhood Traffic Study, carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councilor Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, and Councilor Sokoli.
Thank you. And 7.1 was under resolutions that we dealt with earlier on the Special Olympics. So now we have notice of motions. I think we have 3 notice of motions on the board. Councilor Martin, would you please read the title of your notice of motion, please?
Yes, thank you. Mine is Climate Ready Plan Grant Application.
Come back to you, Councilor Van Tilburg. Councilor Sullivan, would you please read your notice of motion?
8.3 requests the redistribution of provincial land transfer tax and GST municipalities for sustainable infrastructure.
You want to try that with the mic on now? Just for the public.
Taking lessons from Council McCurry, apparently.
Had it happen.
Requested a redistribution of the provincial land transfer tax and GST municipalities from sustainable infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. And Councilor Van Tilburg, I believe you want to move your motion forward without first giving notice.
Yeah, the Remembrance Day crosswalk, and I'd like to waive the rules, and hopefully we get the two-thirds vote so that 8.2 can be considered. That's seconded by my ward mate, Councilor Samwell.
Motion to waive the rules so this item can be considered before Remembrance Day on the agenda. Okay, that's not debatable. I'll call the question on the motion to waive the rules.
The motion to waive the rules carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, and Councilor Sokoli.
Okay, Councilor Van Tilburg, you received unanimous support from council and the committee, so please bring forward your resolution.
Remembrance Day crosswalk, moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Samwell. Whereas Remembrance Day is observed on November 11th each year to honor those who gave their lives to serve our country. And whereas Remembrance Day crosswalk is a decorative pedestrian crosswalk that commemorates Remembrance Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved, A, that a crosswalk be installed near the Brant County War Museum in time for Remembrance Day 2025. And B, that the crosswalk be funded to an upset limit of $30,000 from Council Priorities Reserve Fund, RF 0558. And I just want to thank council for moving this forward so that we have something to talk about this Novembrance Day. I wish we could get this done in time for it, but we'll have in time for next year. And that will certainly give us something to discuss and to look forward to in the future. I had seen another community do this. I believe it was Stony Creek. And that was shown to me by numerous people on social media. And I thought, wow, they can do that. So can we. It looked good. We'll actually have a year to see how their crosswalk looks after 1 year of usage. And we can take that into account for when we design our crosswalk and where it goes. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Samwell, and then Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say that I'm pleased to support this tonight. I think it's a beautiful way to show that we remember, and not just on Remembrance Day, but throughout the year. So I'm looking forward to us being able to support this tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Samwell. Councilor Sullivan. You have the floor, sir.
Just looking for clarification. I like the idea, the concept, but I think it should be near the war monument more opposed than the actual. So I don't know, just my 2 cents.
So any further debate? I would agree with it being near the Senate half. So, but I'll call the question on the, Councilor McCreary, sorry to see your hand.
That's quite okay, Mr. Chair. You've done a remarkable job tonight of keeping us efficient. Yes, you went from pretty good to remarkable in of course, a matter of hours. If I understood, the Ward 5 councillors wanted to do it adjacent to the Canadian War Museum on Greenwich Street. Is that what the location is specified in the resolution?
That's not actually specific. It says the War Memorial.
There's no specific location yet.
It's not fully identified, and staff can come up with.
No cross debate.
Yeah. Good catch. Yes, very good catch for sure. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of this. Good catch by Councillor Van Tilburg. This has been done elsewhere. And it's important that it happens tonight. We can't do it in time for this November 11th, but it's important that people recognize during this week of remembrance that this is something on our agenda that the Ward 5 councillors are bringing forward, and it'll be in place for next year.
Thank you, Councilor McCreary, and I'll call the question. I think that completes our agenda.
Item 8.2, Remembrance Day Crosswalk, carried unanimously on recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Slats, Caputo, Sullivan, Secoli, and Mayor Davis voted in favor as well.
And please note the next Committee of Home Planning Administration meeting is on Thursday at 9 a.m. And that concludes our agenda. Thank you very much for your thoughtful comments.